All right, folks, let's take a moment to do a little thought experiment. Picture this. What would our world look like if Steve Jobs, the enigmatic co-founder of Apple, had never existed? I mean, seriously, just take a minute to imagine it. No iPhones, no MacBooks, no magical Pixar animated films that tug at our heartstrings. Instead, we'd probably still be fumbling around with those clunky PCs from the 90s, flipping through floppy disks like they're some kind of ancient relics from a bygone era. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But the implications are staggering. Without Jobs, how different would our tech landscape and even our daily lives be? It's a wild thought that begs for exploration. So let's strap in and navigate the intricate web of this alternate history. Buckle up. All right, so let's take a little journey back in time and set the scene. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California, to two university students who gave him up for adoption. He grew up to become a pivotal figure in tech and design. But did you know that his upbringing was filled with a diverse array of influences? Adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, he was raised in Cupertino, and it was there that he developed a love for electronics and design. He's often depicted as a visionary, a dreamer who foresaw the potential for computers to be more than just machines for data crunching. They'd be beautiful, personal devices that anyone could use. Think about it. The very first time you held an iPhone in your hands, introduced in 2007, it didn't just change phones, it reshaped the entire landscape of technology and communication. Not only did it serve as a phone, but it morphed into a mini computer, a camera, a gaming console, and a portal to the world's information. Without Jobs, Apple wouldn't have emerged as the powerhouse it is today. We're talking about a company that sparked a design revolution, not just in tech, but across industries, influencing everything from fashion to automobile design. Jobs had this incredible knack for understanding consumer desires and presenting technology in a way that felt sleek, stylish, and almost magical, right? But take a second to picture a reality where he never existed. What if he had taken a different path, or perhaps simply never got that chance? It's a staggering thought, and it's essential to explore the what-ifs. This exploration can be likened to a philosophical debate where we dissect not just technology, but human connection, creativity, and the essence of innovation itself. Spoiler alert, it just might lead us down a rabbit hole of vastly different futures. So, let's break down the ripple effects of a world without Steve Jobs. Okay, first off, let's focus on the early 80s. This was a time when personal computers were just starting to gain ground in households. You had giants like IBM and Microsoft making waves in the burgeoning tech space, but Apple, under Jobs' leadership, was gearing up to change the landscape with the Apple II. Released in 1977, it was one of the first successful mass-market personal computers that didn't require a PhD to operate. To think about it in today's terms, it laid the groundwork for our omnipresent relationship with technology. Now imagine a scenario where Jobs never entered the scene. The Apple II might not have gained traction. Instead, we would have seen more monotonous designs dominating the market. Picture this: clunky, beige boxes that served basic functions, not inspiring any kind of creative relationship. We might still be typing on those mechanical keyboards, hardly ergonomic and only fueling carpal tunnel syndrome. In a world where Apple struggled to enter the market, it's very possible that Microsoft would have taken an even more significant lead earlier on, perhaps even becoming the sole reference point for mainstream personal computing. We'd be living in a monoculture of computing where every device bore the same Microsoft logo. Can you imagine a world where everything runs on Windows with the same boring interface? It's almost a cringeworthy thought. The impact on software development would be profound. Without Jobs' forward-thinking mind, we may not have witnessed the rise of graphic-based user interfaces. Instead, we'd probably still be wrestling with the archaic command line interfaces that were impossible for the average person to navigate. How many times have you just picked up your phone to scroll mindlessly through social media without a second thought? You can thank Jobs for integrating user-friendly design into our everyday technology. Let's entertain the notion of creative roles as well. Without Jobs, graphic designers might not have had the tools they needed to flourish. Software like Adobe Creative Suite might lag behind, lacking the inspiration of user-friendly features, ultimately lowering the quality of Think about how vital these tools are for creativity and innovation today. With their absence, the artistic landscape could vastly differ, leading to a generation starved of creative expression. So in these early years, without Jobs, we'd likely see a stagnation, not just in graphics and design capabilities, but in the entire concept of user experience. Computers may still feel more like industrial equipment rather than vital partners in creativity. Digital branding could have taken longer to emerge, and companies may lack the visual storytelling techniques that Jobs pioneered. Now let's fast forward to the mid-90s. This was a critical period for tech. By this time, Apple was struggling, and Jobs was out of the picture. Without his unique vision and drive, it's likely that Apple never truly redefines itself the way it did when he returned in 1997. Picture this. We might still be grappling with the macOS's clunky, outdated performance. The aesthetics that Jobs deuced, the vibrant colors of the iMac and the sleek lines of the Mac, those designs that turned heads in tech stores everywhere, those might never have seen the light of day. Without them, we could still be dealing with beige boxes and dull interfaces, lacking the charm and personality that made technology feel like part of our lives. Also, let's rewind to the timeline of events leading up to the iPod's debut in 2001. If Jobs hadn't returned to Apple, the iPod might never have come to fruition. I mean, wow, what a game changer. The iPod revolutionized how we consumed music. Imagine a world where digital music remained clunky, with varying formats and devices, but lacking that seamless integration that made the iPod so popular. In this alternate world, we might be stuck toting around bulky CD players, or heaven forbid, clashing with cassette tapes. Can you picture that? Having to rewind your music with a pencil? What a nightmare! Moreover, without the iPod, the landscape of music and media consumption as we know it may have taken a serious detour. The rise of streaming services like Apple Music could be non-existent. We'd still endure a world filled with cumbersome, volume-limited MP3 players, limiting our access to music that now flows effortlessly from our devices. And let's not overlook Pixar. Jobs played a vital role in their transformation into the animation powerhouse we know today. He bought the company in 1986 and supported the creative vision that led to groundbreaking films. Without him, Pixar wouldn't have been able to produce gems like Toy Story and Finding Nemo. Instead, we could have been stuck with less imaginative animation styles that lack the charm and storytelling prowess that Pixar mastered. Animated movies would become synonymous with traditional techniques and would lack that revolutionary spark. Now, let's hit one more rabbit hole. Consider how different the tech landscape would look without the culture of entrepreneurship that Jobs helped shape. His persona was a beacon for innovation, inspiring a generation of engineers and creators. Even if other innovators like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg emerged, their journeys could be drastically altered, overshadowed by the absence of Jobs' presence. Would we have seen the proliferation of startups that fueled the tech boom? Would Silicon Valley still be the hotspot for brilliant ideas, or would it be filled with boredom and stagnant careers? It's plausible to think that without him, the spirit of innovation might have dimmed. So in this mid-90s world without Jobs, we end up with a tech landscape that feels stagnant and uninspired. We're missing out on serious innovation. And the companies that shape our lives in the 21st century may never have existed, leading to a ripple effect across the globe. Now, here's where it gets particularly interesting. Let's dive into the Apple Store experience for a moment. Those sleek, minimalist designs that invite you right in. Jobs revolutionized retail by creating a space for people to interact and experience products firsthand. Without Jobs, traditional retail environments could have continued to be chaotic and overwhelming. Instead, many tech stores might resemble disorganized warehouses filled to the brim with outdated gadgets. Plus, imagine the impact on smartphones. Without Jobs presenting a vision for what a smartphone could be, other companies developing mobile devices might not have seen the potential either. Take the Android operating system, for example. Its rise is intricately tied to the influence of the iPhone. Without Jobs' push for intuitive touchscreen interfaces, we might still be using phones that resemble glorified walkie-talkies, clunky designs, and frustrating interfaces that require a manual to operate. And let's get into advertising, folks. Jobs was a master at marketing. From those iconic Think Different ads to unforgettable product launches, he understood the importance of storytelling in advertising. Without him leading the charge, tech ads might still look like baffling infomercials filled with dry demos. Can you picture a commercial for a smartphone where it's just a bland voiceover saying, "Look at our new calculator, it's shiny"? Yeah, no thanks. Now here's a fun thought. Without jobs, tech would not have entered popular culture in the same way. Imagine movies like The Social Network and Jobs not even existing or resonating with our cultural zeitgeist. Instead, pop culture could be riddled with vapid portrayals of the tech world, focusing more on corporate drudgery than visionary excitement. Movies and television shows might be left to wallow in the depths of technological mediocrity, failing to inspire audiences to dream bigger and bolder. Moreover, think about the rise of influencer culture fueled by social media. Jobs championed user-friendly interfaces that birthed the app ecosystem, allowing platforms like Instagram and TikTok to thrive. In a world without jobs, would influencers be a thing? Would the concept of sharing your life with a global audience on social media even exist? It's possible we'd still be living more offline lives, restricted to face-to-face interactions in our local communities. Overall, the broader tech community would see diminished innovation, creativity, and engagement. We might have other tech moguls stepping up, but I'm not sure they'd be able to cultivate that entire culture around innovation, design, and user experience that we associate with Apple today. The world could become less inspired, with fewer creators pushing boundaries in technology that enhance our lives. Now let's switch gears a little. What about cultural and economic shifts? The impact of a world without Steve Jobs extends way beyond technology. We could easily see an entire generation growing up with far fewer digital devices, which would create a ripple effect on how we interact socially, politically, and even in education. For example, think about how education has evolved with technology. In recent years, classrooms have been filled with iPads and laptops, teaching kids in immersive and engaging ways. Without jobs, we might have stuck to chalkboards and textbooks that feel reminiscent of a time that predates our understanding of technology. Can you imagine kids struggling to grasp concepts with outdated resources? It feels like a nightmare scenario, especially when we consider how technology has aided learning outcomes. And let's talk about economic implications. Without the rise of Apple and its innovative products, numerous jobs would vanish. You've got developers, manufacturers, retailers, each intricately linked back to the iPhone's success. Job creation in tech suffers, and in turn we see far fewer startups emerging within the ecosystem. Moreover, if we dive deeper into the economic ripples, we should consider the vast networks of suppliers that support companies like Apple. Without the demand for iPhones, we might not have seen the same urgency for advancements in battery technology, display technology, or semiconductor manufacturing. The global supply chain would take a significant hit, affecting economies around the world. Let's also touch upon influential figures like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. Would they have been different players in the game without Apple's legacy? Their companies might lack that innovative edge that Jobs' presence fostered. The culture of innovation might evaporate, leaving people disenchanted with technology rather than seeing it as a vital asset. Instead of propelling society forward, technology may present itself with a sense of dread, an obligation rather than a gift. So here we are in 2025, living in a world without Steve Jobs. Can you even visualize it? Perhaps you're pulling out one of those retro flip phones with tiny screens, the ones that remind you of your childhood but somehow feel like an ancient artifact in a world that's increasingly digital. Social media. It could be a compilation of static pages resembling the early days of the internet, rather than the vibrant, interactive experience we've grown accustomed to. What about electric cars? Without Jobs' influence on innovation, it's entirely plausible that Tesla and similar companies might never have made waves in the automotive industry. Instead, we could be driving around in clunky gas guzzlers with no supercharging stations in sight. And don't even get me started on wearable tech. No smartwatches to monitor your health or track your fitness goals, just regular old wristwatches that can barely tell time, let alone handle notifications for you. Politically, we're also impacted in this alternate universe. A less connected world would mean less direct communication between citizens and their leaders, potentially creating a wider disconnect in political advocacy and movements. Activism as we know it, organizing protests through social media and making your voice heard, would look entirely different. If we think back to the Black Lives Matter movement, social media played a pivotal role in bringing awareness and organizing events. How would that have transformed without the platforms birthed from the tech revolution instigated by Jobs' innovations? Moreover, the cultural fabric could be woven with threads of isolation rather than collaboration. The culture of innovation might evaporate, leaving people disenchanted with technology rather than seeing it as a vital asset. Instead of propelling society forward, technology may present itself with a sense of dread, an obligation rather than a gift. So, as we wrap this up, isn't it wild to think how one person can change the trajectory of an entire industry, indeed of our lives? It's like a cosmic ripple, right? Without Steve Jobs, we've lost out on innovation, inspiration, and even the way we engage with the world and each other. The absence of his visionary drive would leave a void that's hard to fill, leading to a landscape that feels more bleak, with lesser creativity and fewer innovators pushing boundaries. Now, I want to hear what you think. Does the idea of a world without Steve Jobs fascinate you? What has this exploration prompted you to consider about pivotal figures in innovation? What kind of alternate history are you imagining? Throw your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, if you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more alternate history goodness. Be sure to let me know who you'd like us to erase next in our next mind-bending episode. Until then, keep wondering about what could have been. All right, folks, let's take a moment to do a little thought experiment. Picture this. What would our world look like if Steve Jobs, the enigmatic co-founder of Apple, had never existed? I mean, seriously, just take a minute to imagine it. No iPhones, no MacBooks, no magical Pixar animated films that tug at our heartstrings. Instead, we'd probably still be fumbling around with those clunky PCs from the 90s, flipping through floppy disks like they're some kind of ancient relics from a bygone era. Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But the implications are staggering. Without Jobs, how different would our tech landscape and even our daily lives be? It's a wild thought that begs for exploration. So let's strap in and navigate the intricate web